Namaha. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the discussion on the Great Master, Sri Ramakrishna, written by Sharadanandaji Maharaj. So, yesterday we have celebrated the Ganesha Chaturthi. Whatever we were discussing, the Ganesha Devaswarupa of the Avatara Varishta Sri Ramakrishna, whereby we saw Ramakrishna too had that filial attitude, lifelong filial attitude to see Divine Mother in Ramakrishna having that attitude of a child towards the mother, that is God as his mother, and epitome or the ideal of that bhava, the apta bhava, are looking the infinite, formless, and attributeless God as mother, which takes form in the form of Mother Durga or Kali or whatever. That was Lord Ganesha. And Ramakrishna too maintained from his childhood up to his last that attitude. Ramakrishna himself has mentioned that. We read that and we also discussed about that few days back, and we also discussed it yesterday in the Ganesha Chaturthi, the talk. So we shall now continue to study that wonderful life of Sri Ramakrishna. First, we will go through the life of Mathurnath Vishwas, which is also filled with nothing but Ramakrishna and Ramakrishna alone. It's quite amazing that whenever Sri Ramakrishna wished to take up a particular spiritual discipline, an adept or teacher of that discipline would come to Dakshineshwar and help him. At the same time, Mathur unfailingly stood by, supplying all the necessary articles that the master required so that he could practice those rituals and disciplines according to the injunctions of the scriptures. When Sri Ramakrishna started to practice the Madhura Bhava, now in the Ganesha's life we saw Ganesha and also Ramakrishna practicing the Apta Bhava or the filial attitude towards whereby we think God as our father and mother, and especially as mother. And we saw that life of Ganesha and also life of Ramakrishna, by which he realized God with that attitude. The first attitude was that filial attitude, whereby he saw the Divine Mother or the Lord Nirakar Nirguna Parabrahma himself as mother and realized Mother Kali. We are aware of that. Now, Ramakrishna has not come just for his own personal mukti. He has not come for his own merit, to create merit by sadhana, to get punya by sadhana. He is Parabrahma himself. He has taken this human form to show the reality, the originality of our scriptures, the paths by which it leads to God. So that's why it was not just given for him to take up one attitude and keep quiet. So he had to do sadhana through many, many different paths and then reach the goal. So now it is time for Sri Ramakrishna. It was time for Sri Ramakrishna to do the Madhura Bhava, just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Divine Mother Radha, seeing now God as lover or a husband, imagining himself or taking the attitude of himself as the wife or the woman in love with a man, and that man is God here. And the person who is going to love that man in the form of God, whether he may be having a man body, he may be a Purusha, but we are all in essence Prakriti until we realize the Lord Atman within us, the Purusha, real Purusha within our heart. What is the meaning of Purusha? Purusha is not that which is having some beard and mustache or some external signs that he is a man. So Purusha means in Sanskrit, Pure Shete iti Purushaha. That who resides in this body, the town or the city, making this city or the town, this body, as a town or city, and who reside within that, that person is called Purusha. So we may be having a body of a man, but we are not yet fit to be called as Purusha until we realize, separate this Prakriti, that is this body, mind, ego, and other things, separate it and realize that Purusha as a witness. So once we realize, have that Atma Gnana, which we are discussing in the Vivek Chudamani, Atmaikya Bodha, identity or unity with our Atman, identifying ourselves with that Atman, then only we will become Purusha. Everyone, even man or woman or anybody for that sake, any living being, will become a Purusha when he isolates the Prakriti and identifies himself with that pure consciousness, whether man or woman or anything. So until we realize that everybody is a Prakriti only, we are all Prakriti. We are not at, but the person who is having a body of the man, the leanings or his leanings towards the Purusha is a little more. People who have the leanings more towards Prakriti, they get a female body. That's all, nothing else. But they are also, even women have the same Purusha within their heart. They are also Atma Swarupa, whether you have a male body or a female body. But until you realize that Atman, we are all Prakritis only. You should know that great statement of Mother Meera. Meera, you know, all Meera Bhai, was also having that Madhura Bhava towards Lord Krishna. She was married to a king in Rajasthan. She gave up everything and she used to roam the streets searching in Lord Krishna. So, with that attitude of Madhura Bhava, she had come to Vrindavan. So, there she came to know one of the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disciple who was residing there in Vrindavan, was a great soul. So, she wanted to meet that great soul. Now, this disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was following the vrata of Brahmacharya. So during that period, they isolate themselves from all the objects of senses. So because he was practicing that Brahmacharya, he didn't want to see any women. So that his mind should not be distracted. So he didn't want to see any woman. So when Mirabai came to meet him, he told that he is in that vrata of Brahmacharya, so he cannot meet any woman. When Mirabai, who was staying outside that ashram or kutir, heard this, she immediately loudly replied, if there is another man, Purusha, it's not the word man, but Purusha. If there is another Purusha in this Vrindavan other than Lord Krishna, I want to see him. If there is another Purusha other than Lord Krishna, I want to see him. That means there is no other Purusha other than the Lord. Whether you may call him Krishna, Vishnu, Narayana, Rama, Shiva, Ganesha, Subramanya, whatever you may call. So he is the only Purusha. God is the only Purusha. All of us are, the rest are all Prakriti. The statement, see the wonderful statement of Mirabai. She is telling, if there is one more Purusha other than Krishna in Vrindavan, I want to see him. So then when he overheard that great disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could know what a great person who has come outside in the form of Mirabai. Then he came out himself and greeted her, asking apology and all those things. That's a different thing. So what I wanted to tell is, all of us, until we realize our Atma Swarupa, we are all Prakriti only. So when we realize or go more towards the Atman which is within us, then only we are fit to be called as Purusha or man. So that's why you can see Swami Vivekananda always telling man making, character building, man making. What is this man making? So man making is you are trying to get a good character whereby you make your mind and body free and go towards the realization of God. So realizing the highest goal of human being, that is realization of identity with Atman. So now here, now time has come for Ramakrishna to realize God. He has taken so many different paths now. He did the he got the realization of Ramachandra and Mother Sita in the form of Dasya Bhava. Then he got in that Apta Bhava, filial attitude towards Divine Mother. He realized so many other paths, the Advaita and other things he was taking one by one. Now it is the time he took up the Madhura Bhava, whereby he himself will think himself as a Prakriti or the woman and the Lord as the lover or the husband. So that is the Madhura Bhava. So many people have taken Lord Shiva as the husband. So many have taken with that attitude, different gods and goddesses. So now, when Sri Ramakrishna, it was amazing, wished to take a particular spiritual discipline, an adept or a teacher of that discipline would come to Dakshineshwar exactly at that time and help him. At the same time, Mathur Babu, you can see what is the role of Mathura Babu. We are studying the life of Mathura Babu because the hero is Sri Ramakrishna. Though Mathur Babu's life, hero is not Mathura Babu, but Mathur Babu has been placed here to help and serve Sri Ramakrishna. In the process, he is helping the whole humanity. Now, Ramakrishna has come down to this earth, taking this human body to do all this sadhana, not for himself, to serve humanity. So, by which Mathur Babu is also serving humanity by serving Sri Ramakrishna. So, whatever Master wanted at that time would be very diligently supplied by Mathur Babu. Master, at that time, Master required necessary articles, supplying all the necessary articles that Master required so that he could practice those rituals and disciplines according to the injunctions of the scriptures. When Sri Ramakrishna started to practice the Madhura Bhava, the spiritual discipline in which one identifies oneself with Radha. You know, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was also a man by body, but he identified, he all through his life, after he came in contact with that Krishna Bhakti, he identified himself with that Radha Bhava, the Madhura Bhava. He himself used to think as Radha and always immersed in the thought of Lord Krishna. So now it was time Ramakrishna also did this sadhana. He identified in which one identifies oneself with Mother Radha in her devotion to Lord Krishna. Now Sri Ramakrishna asked Mathur for some woman's apparel. So now people may think, oh, what is this? Didn't Ramakrishna feel shy? Or how could he wear a woman's apparel? So Ramakrishna didn't have the body consciousness at all. That is a man or a woman. So he had the soul consciousness, Atman consciousness. So where is the feeling of shy or people? And also you should know that while he was doing the sadhana, falling on the ground and calling Divine Mother, shouting for Mother, crying, his body, face were cut and bruises and it was bleeding, but he would not give up. People used to gather around and see, oh, has he gone mad or something has happened to him. He would not feel shy. There was no lajja. There was no shame because his only attitude was to please the Lord, to realize the Lord. That was all. Whether the human beings who are around him will be pleased or will they think something of him, not a single, even an iota of that feeling. So here too, his only aim is to see God, to realize God now in the form of Krishna in the Madhura Bhava. Whether people will tell or spread scandals or tell anything, that is not at all there in his mind. So now, if we have to take the cue, if we have to take the example of Sri Ramakrishna, when we are in pursuance of our goal, whether you are a student trying to get some education, whether you are a businessman, whether you are a doctor, whether you are doing some service to your country, whether you are a religious man. So the important thing, that one of the Ashtapashas is lajja, shame. So if you want to reach the goal, we We have to give up these things. Ramakrishna is an example. So not for anything else, only in the pursuance of your goal. When the highest goal is God realization, at that time you should not feel, oh, what will those people think? What will these people think? What will the family think? What will be the reputation of my family? No, realization of God is the only goal. We have seen in India, the students, when they are in their own village or in town, around their neighborhood, they will be very careful to give a different expression outside the world, show off to the world in a different way. They'll be very serious, they will be very decent looking, and so many other things. But when they go to, they don't do the menial work. They don't do what you call go to the work to earn money. But when they go to foreign countries like Europe or America for their studies, and what do? So they go to the petrol bunk, they wash the cars, they do the menial work, they will do the toilet cleaning, they earn money, and they pursue their education. So what is there to do the toilet work, to clean the bathroom, to clean the gutter, to clean the cars or vehicles or petrol bunk to put in the petrol? It's nothing like the work is menial, great or higher. This thing, for the sake of pursuance of my education, my goal, I will do any work. But when they go to foreign countries, they give up all their lajja, shame, and they work. But when they come to India, when they are in their own village, in their family, they are different people. They don't want to go do all those things. What will the other people think? So you can see the dual personalities here. So when we are in that process of pursuing our goal, you want to reach the goal, whether in education or in doing some, you are a scientist, you have to forget all the things. You know, who is that? I'm not inspiring you to do that things like the great Archimedes or like Ramakrishna, but the spirit has to be taken. The lajja and other things have to be given up for the goal. So only that, then these things are forgotten. The Ashtapashas are gone. So Archimedes, he was constantly thinking about how to solve that problem. The king had given him the crown. He doubted that there may be some other than gold or other this thing, some base of metal has been added. So it deceived me. So the king had given him the time that within that stipulated time he has to tell him. So now he was in continuous thought. As soon as he got into the bathtub, then the water flowed out so that he got that idea. Now, how could he solve the problem? So when that idea flashed, he simply ran on the streets, just like in the bathroom naked, telling Eureka, Eureka, because I have found it. He got the solution for that. So he was not at all aware of the outer external world. His only thought was how to find the solution. He was a great scientist. So I found the aim there. Then where is the question of lajja or anything? Shame. So now Ramakrishna's only goal is to realize Lord Krishna in this path of Madhura Bhava. Now he has forgotten that he's a man or a boy or a girl or whatever. His only aim is to realize Krishna in the Madhura Bhava. So whether he has to wear a woman apparel, think himself like a woman, that is secondary. Not even secondary. That is not a this thing at all thought of. So he just rushed in that. And he took that woman's dress and woman's everything and started practicing. I had read in the newspapers maybe 20, 25 years back, one IPS police officer, he was a high-ranking police officer, somewhere in Uttar Pradesh, if I'm right. I don't know which state it was, but he went to Vrindavan and other places in Uttar Pradesh. He gave up everything. He resigned from his job of the highest top-ranking police officer. Then he used to wear the apparel of a woman and take this thing just like Mirabai and taking the name of dressing like a woman, taking the name of Lord Krishna. He used to be moving about in the streets of Vrindavan and going here, there. The newspaper people, it was an amusement for them going around him, taking the camera, seeing the police officer in a woman apparel. What is this? So making fun and all those things. But he had got consciousness. He had given up everything, though he was a police officer. Suddenly he remembered his true identity to realize God, given up, resigned all those things, given up his lajja, took up to that. Maybe he got his guru guided him to do Madhura Bhava. Maybe it was from his last birth. So he took up that Madhura Bhava and wearing the women apparel used to roam on the streets, taking the name of Krishna. So for all other people, it was fun and amusement. But for him, no lajja. His goal was to realize Krishna is to be moving about, singing the name of the God in the woman's apparel. He was doing that Madhura Bhava. So other people couldn't understand because their mind is only goal oriented, money, making money, enjoying the life. It's not spiritual oriented. So where can they understand that they will make fun? So why should we, people who are pursuing our goal, when the criminals, when the drug addicts, when the bad guys, when the the wrong elements in the society, they don't have shame, they don't have lajja to do bad things, to pursue their bad goals, unrighteous things. They don't have lajja to do that. They shamelessly do all those things. Why should we, good people, who are pursuing the good thing, we are not doing anything unrighteous, we are not uh, taking to wrong means or troubling the society. So why should we feel lajja to realize God, to go in the path of God? So now we can see, now Ramakrishna started following this Madhura Bhava, started to practice Madhura Bhava, the spiritual discipline in which one identifies oneself with Radha in her devotion to Krishna. He asked Mathur for some woman's clothes. Mathur provided him with a lovely and costly sari from Varanasi. It's called Banarasi sari, a scarf and a skirt and a bodice. To complete the transformation, Mathur adorned him with a set of golden ornaments and a wig too. Needless to say, this strange sadhana of the master created some scandal. Both he and Mathur ignored it. Sri Ramakrishna wore woman's cloth for 6 months, and during this period, people were surprised to see that his way of walking and speaking, his gestures, and even his smallest actions were exactly like a woman's. Once Mathur took Sri Ramakrishna to his home in Jan Bazar, Calcutta. The women of his family loved the master very much and immediately took him to their own quarters. Mathur then brought Hriday to that section and asked him to find his uncle among the women. But Hriday had a hard time identifying his uncle, even though he lived with Sri Ramakrishna and served him daily. Shortly after this sadhana, Totapuri, an illumined monk of the non-dualistic school of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, because Vedanta has so many schools. The Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Dvaita, and all the other schools, they belong to Vedanta only. They are all from Vedanta. So they're all different schools of Vedanta. So this is one of the path that is non-dualistic. So that's why it's called Advaita Vedanta. So Dvaita Vedanta is also there. Vishishtadvaita Vedanta is also there. This is Advaita Vedanta. So Totapuri was the guru. He came there, and Ramakrishna was now practicing Advaita Vedanta. Shortly after the sadhana of Madhura Bhava, Totapuri. So after finishing, reaching the goal, Ramakrishna didn't stop there. He took up the next path, that is the Advaita Vedanta, to realize God in his formless and attributeless. See, the Semitic religions, they know only about God with formless, but they have with attributes. They don't have form. They don't worship God with form, but they worship God with attributes. They pray to Him. They think that He's sitting somewhere in the clouds in the throne. So that is their this is with attributes, formless with attributes. Yeah, God will come to you in that form too. But Hinduism has gone for beyond that. What is that? It is not only without form, but without attributes too. So Ramakrishna used to tell, don't limit God. He may be much, much more than that, what you think. He's infinite. He can come in infinite form, infinite ways. So you cannot limit God. You cannot make him uchishta, juta, by your words, telling that, oh, God is only this much. Don't limit God. So God, Ramakrishna didn't idea of limiting God. Just like he hated the obstacles which stops us from going to God, like Kama and Kanchana, lust and God, he hated it. Likewise, he also hated one more thing, that is limiting God. Never limit God. That was Ramakrishna's teaching, always telling that don't limit God, never limit God. So now he took up this practice, Advaita Vedanta. Shortly after this sadhana of Madhurabhava, Totapari came and Ramakrishna never stopped. Now, from the gradation of the master degree of Madhurabhava, he is going to the PhD. No stopping there because he has finished PhD and taking up that medal and taking up that gold medal or that certificate and that gown and the hat on the head. So be happy with there and just dream those things and keep quiet. No, finish that and go to the next path and realize that. So the next master degree or the next PhD or the postdoctorate. So he went to the Advaita Vedanta to realize God in his formless and attributeless aspect. Shortly after of this Madhurabhava sadhana, Totapuri, an illumined monk of the non-dualistic school of Vedanta, came to Dakshineshwar and initiated Sri Ramakrishna into sannyasa, monasticism. Within 3 days, he attained Nirvikalpa Samadhi. I just experience you can get. There are so many varieties of samadhi, savikalpa samadhi, and so many different varieties of samadhi are there, jada samadhi. But the highest is nirvikalpa. There is no subject-object relationship. There is no ego. Only the experience of God and God alone. Only that Purusha will be there, not even Purusha. No Prakriti at all. Only God and God. That's why it's called non-dualistic. No Dvaita. It is just God and God alone. So he attained that too. Non-dualistic. Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Vikalpa is this division of subject-object relationship is still there. I, the subject, and the object is still there. The difference is there. But here, subject and object becomes one. There's no difference. No subject, no object. Just God alone. That is Nirvikalpa. Vikalpa and Nirvikalpa Samadhi. The culmination of Vedantic experience. The master also took initiation from, after that, another practicing Islamic person, a Sufi, and devotedly repeated the name of Allah. Within 3 days, he realized the goal of Islamic Sufism. During this particular sadhana, Sri Ramakrishna could not look at the images of Hindu gods and goddesses. He also wore clothes like the Arab Muslims. He also wore clothes like the Arab Muslims. Said the Muslim prayer, that is Azan, 5 times a day. But when he asked to eat the Muslim food, Mathur begged him not to, since this would include beef. As a compromise, Mathur engaged a Mohammedan cook to instruct a Hindu cook to prepare food for the master in the Muslim manner. So he would take the food in the Muslim manner but vegetarian. Sometimes before Sri Ramakrishna started to practice non-dualistic Vedanta, his mother moved to Dakshineshwar from Kamarpukur. Mathur had great regard for her and would call her grandma. So now Chandramani Devi was becoming old. She also wanted to deeply concentrate in sadhana. So she came to Sri Ramakrishna and Dakshineshwar, started living there on the first floor of the Nahabat. Ground floor, Mother Sharda Devi used to live there, cook and do all the work. And on the first floor, on the next floor, Chandramani Devi used to live. So Ramakrishna used to go serve her, massage her feet, always do pranams, namaskar to her. This is the custom in India, that the mother is to be taken. I know that I told you in the beginning itself, the filial attitude, the highest regard for mother, Ganesha's ideal, Matru Bhakti. So Ramakrishna used to go daily, feed her, see her, she takes food, she takes breakfast, she takes supper, looks to all her comfort, make her comfortable. He used to even press her leg, massage her leg, if it would pain, and fan her, take care of her. Only after she used to take food, even after getting sannyasa. After realizing the Advaita Vedanta, after Nirvikalpa Samadhi, can you imagine that? Where everything is given up. he used to look after his mother with great care. So that's why Ramakrishna set us the ideal as an ideal son, not only as an ideal sadhaka, he has set in an example as an ideal son too. The duty towards the mother, the love towards the mother, highest regard towards the mother. He set that example, that ideal too. He used to not take food until Chandramani Devi would take food, to take great care. He used to cry if Chandramani would cry. He used to laugh, he used to enjoy, he used to be happy if Chandramani Devi would be happy. Can you imagine? An avatar Purusha. Can you imagine? Who has realized Advaita Vedanta, Nirvikalpa Samadhi for 6 months constantly. Be like that. So he has come here to set an ideal for us. So the ideal of service to mother, service to father. So he was the ideal son too. So you can see Sarvadeva Devi, Swarupa Ramakrishna setting in all the ideals. So Chandramani Devi came to Dakshineshwar, she started living there. Ramakrishna was serving her. Sometimes before Sri Ramakrishna started to practice non-dualistic Vedanta, his mother moved to Dakshineshwar from Kamarpukur. Mathur had great regard to her and would call her grandma. So here they call her Aji. Here in South Africa, they call Aji or grandmother. So Mathur used to call her as grandma. Mathur was very much concerned about Sri Ramakrishna's future welfare. Earlier, he had discussed it with Hriday and had decided to offer Sri Ramakrishna an estate, so that the money which would come from estate will be there, because Mathur was very much worried if he goes away, if he dies, or if something happens to him, who will look after Sri Ramakrishna? Who will take care of Sri Ramakrishna? So he was very much concerned about so much of love, far-sightedness. So he wanted to set an estate, a very big estate in the name of Sri Ramakrishna, and all the earnings of that estate would come to Sri Ramakrishna. He wanted to do that. So he decided, he talked with Hriday, and Mathur decided to offer Sri Ramakrishna an estate, keep it in his name. But as soon as the master heard about it, he became mad and rushed to hit Mathur, shouting, "You rascal, you want to make me a worldly man?" So when Mathur wanted to keep an estate in his name, we may all feel, what is this funny thing? Has Ramakrishna gone mad? Mathur is doing good to him. You want to do this thing? Because we always think at the worldly level. But Ramakrishna was completely dependent on God, Divine Mother. So his dependence was completely on Divine Mother. So what will happen if I always rely upon the Divine Mother? Will the Lord who has promised Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Yejanam Paryupasite Tesham Nityapi Yuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. I'm going to take, it is the Lord who is taking care of every one of us. Can anybody else take care? We think that we are taking care of others, our children, your wife, your husband, your father and mother, you think. But it is the Lord in reality who is taking care of everybody. We feel like that because we are at the level of the worldliness. But Ramakrishna's mind was so much completely dependent upon God, completely reliance on God, that when Mathur even mentioned that he will keep an estate or keep some money in his name, Ramakrishna got mad, he got angry. He came to hit Mathurnath. So the master came shouting, rushed to hit Mathur, shouting, "Rascal, you want to make me a worldly man?" So it's not exact English word rascal, it was sala. So he used to always call, the scolding he used to always give us dursala. That was the word Ramakrishna used to tell. So that has been translated here because they can't get that in English word that for that sala. So he used to use, they have put it as rascal. Rascal, you want to make me a worldly man? Since this plan did not work, now Mathur was bent upon serving Sri Ramakrishna and keeping some money or some estate. So he was trying different ways to help Ramakrishna in that way. Since this plan didn't work, Mathur devised another What was that another plan? He went to Chandramani Devi, the master's mother, and begged her to ask of him anything she wanted. So that Chandramani Devi took something and kept the money or estate in her name. Then finally that would go to Ramakrishna. So he wanted to serve Ramakrishna by serving Chandramani Devi. So he went and pleaded and begged Chandramani Devi to take something. You ask anything, whatever you want, I will give you. Mother, grandmother, whatever you want, you please ask me. So he went to Chandramani Devi, the master's mother, and begged her to ask of him anything she wanted. But the guileless old lady was perplexed. She said, my son, you have already removed all my wants. I don't have any wants. So you should always think she is the mother of Avatar Purusha Sri Ramakrishna. So if she is the mother, you can imagine what great qualities will be there. So she was so guileless. Chandramani Devi, when he begged, Mathurnath begged her to ask for anything she wanted. The guileless old lady was perplexed. She said, my son, you have already removed all my wants. I shall inform you if I need anything in the future. I have enough clothing and you have provided plenty of food. So what else do I need? When Mathur insisted, she thought for a while and said, well, if you really want to give me something, please buy me an anna. Anna means cent, 1 cent. 1/16th of a rupee is called anna. So here in the Western country, we can think it as 1 cent. Equivalent to less than 1 cent. Equivalent to less than 1 cent. Worth of tobacco leaf. So in Bengal, there is a custom when they make the tooth powder. They powder this paddy husk. They burn the paddy husk, the burning charcoal like thing, paddy husk. They also burn this tobacco and mix it. That's a good tooth powder. To brush the teeth, they use that. So they will burn this tobacco, they will burn this, what you call paddy husk. And after that, that charcoal or that ash, that will be rough thing. It will be used as a tooth powder to clean the tooth. So to prepare tooth powder, I need 1 cent worth of tobacco. You can buy that. That's all. He's asking you take estate, you take money, gold, jewel, whatever you want. You ask mother, I'm going to ready, I'm ready to give it to you. As much as money, big estates in your name. She's asking 1 cent worth of tobacco, that too for making tooth powder. Well, if you really, she thought for a long time. After many days, after thinking, he's telling, well, if you really want to give me something, my son, please buy me an anna or cent worth of tobacco leaves. I want to make some tooth powder. Mathur was moved to tears. He saluted her. He did pranams to her and remarked, who but such a mother could give birth to a son like Sri Ramakrishna? Now we shall go to the proper life of Sri Ramakrishna. This was also life of Sri Ramakrishna, but the great sadhana, the spiritual aspirant's life, we will enter to now. Coming to the life of Sri Ramakrishna as a sadhaka, as a spiritual aspirant, although the master practiced the disciplines according to the tantric mysteries for 3 or 4 years, he, it seemed, did not tell any of us their consecutive order or give any one of us a detailed account of them. Exactly the date, when, chronologically, what was the first, what was the second, what was the middle, because there are 64 tantras. In that 64 tantras, there are so many hundreds of different spiritual sadhanas. So 64 into so many. So all that sadhanas, one by one, Ramakrishna practiced. So all the details are not known because Ramakrishna is not mentioned. So it seems did not tell any of us their consecutive order or give us any one of us a detailed account of them, the chronological order. But in order to encourage us on the path of the sadhana in spiritual disciplines, he told many of us of these facts on many occasions. So whenever a chance would provide, whenever he see different disciples of his progressing in spiritual life or at different stages of evolution, so particular sadhana which he practiced during that tantric tantric sadhana period, he used to bring out of his memory and give that as an example so that it will inspire that sadhana, and also the result he got from that would inspire his disciple to go forward in spiritual life. But it is not mentioned chronologically, but whenever it was needed, so is to bring out it from the stock of his memory and tell his disciples. So that's how we have come to know what Ramakrishna told about that sadhana and what was his experience, all those things which we have heard from him, that is being recorded. Because he has not told in detail how and when and the discipline with which he did it, all that thing has not been recorded in a chronological order. But whatever he has told has been recorded. So Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling, but in order to encourage us on the path of sadhana, Sri Ramakrishna told many of us of these facts on many occasions, and according to individual needs, made a rare few of us perform some of those practices. So he also made some of us to practice those spiritual disciplines when it was rare few of us to perform some of those practices. The mother of the universe, it appears, made the master fully acquainted with this path at that time. Because if he had not himself had the uncommon experiences resulting from the tantric practices, he would not have been able to detect the mental states of the devotees of the different nature who came to him in his later life. So now you can see why one of the reasons. There may be so many other reasons. To set an example, to show the truth, the veracity of our scriptures, so many other things are there. But one more reason why he practiced so many spiritual discipline, because he has to become an ideal guru. So an ideal guru should be adept in all the different paths, because varieties, thousands and thousands of people came to Sri Ramakrishna for spiritual guidance. We know only 16 disciples, direct disciples, and few householder disciples, but so many saints, monks, so many rishis, so many people, sadhakas, known, unknown, they came to Sri Ramakrishna, thousands in thousands, and got the blessings, and they got the spiritual guidance from Sri Ramakrishna, proceeded further. And it is all not recorded at all. Thousands, you can tell in thousands, came to Sri Ramakrishna at that time. So Ramakrishna should guide them properly. He should know everything. So if they come and talk about some particular thing, he should be knowing. So he himself has to practice it. He has to perfect it. Without perfecting in that particular discipline, how can he guide them? Now you can understand why Divine Mother made Sri Ramakrishna to practice all the different disciplines. I think some of you might have asked me the question, why Sri Ramakrishna had to practice all these things? One answer is to show the veracity to the truth of all the scriptures, that they are true, all the scriptures are true. Another thing you can see, the mother of the universe, it appears, made the master fully acquainted with this path, all the different paths at that time, because if Sri Ramakrishna had not himself had the uncommon experiences resulting from the tantric practices or any other spiritual practices, he would not have been able to detect the mental states of the devotees of different nature who came to him in his later life, and to lead them forward on the path of sadhana. We have elsewhere given a little indication of how The master guided along various paths of disciplines the devotees who came to him and took refuge at his feet. A study of that section will show the reasonableness of what we have said above. So now we got the valid reasons, the logical reasons why Sri Ramakrishna, even after realizing God in the first place with his pure self effort, with his eagerness, with just Vyakulata, the yearning to realize God, he realized it with his pure self effort. But after that, why did he practice all these things? So now we have got the logical and conclusive answer. Why did mother made him practice all those things? Because when different varieties, thousands of people, sadhakas came to him, so he had to guide them in the proper way. Suppose he has not undergone all this discipline, how could he know the problem? What is the thing there? He would have guided in his own way. That would not be suitable. It would not be perfect. So now he's done everything, every bit of it. So there is no doubt at all. He can clearly guide them, whoever. Besides telling us in this manner of the tantric practices, the master sometimes spoke to us about many of his visions and experiences during that period. And he also made very rare few of his direct disciples and also householders' disciples to very rare few of them to even perform those disciplines too. Now, besides telling us in this manner of the tantric practices, the master sometimes spoke to us about many of his visions and experiences after performing them. What were the different visions of the gods and goddesses? What was the experience he used to get? So he has spoken about them. We shall now describe a few of them. A root and branch change may come over his former nature at the time of the tantric sadhana. A root and branch change came over his former nature. A complete change, a root and branch change came over his former nature at the time of the tantric sadhana. When he was told that the Divine Mother sometimes assumed the form of a jackal and that the dogs were the carriers of Bhairava, he regarded the remnants of the food taken by those animals as pure and sacred and partook of them as prasada without feeling the slightest hesitation. Offering heartily as oblation to the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, his body, mind, life, and all, the Master saw himself incessantly pervaded inwardly and outwardly by the fire of knowledge. Fire of knowledge covered him inwardly and outwardly, offering heartily as oblations to the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, his body, mind, life, and all. He completely offered everything. As I told you yesterday, what is the indication of offering 21 things, 21 modaka, 21 durvagras, 21 Ganesha likes that 21 number. Why should he like? What does that signify? I explained it yesterday, telling that 5 karmendriya, 5 gnanendriya, then pancha prana, 5 prana, then the internal energies or forces in our body, then 5 bhutas, the material, pancha bhutas, agni, vayu, apaha, tejaha, all these things with which the 5 material our body is made out of. So altogether it is 20. Then another one is our mind or ego. So together it makes our mind totality because ego is also part of the mind with the ego, mind with the ego. So mind consists of the chitta, the material with which it is made out of chitta. Then manas, the always doubting and curious aspect of the mind is manas, samshayatmika. Then intellect, buddhi, the nishchayatmika buddhi, determinative faculty, and ego, the I sense, all together constitutes mind. So this mind with the ego and these 20 things together constitutes 21. We are offering 21 to the Lord. That means I am offering everything, total surrender at the feet of the Lord. That is the indication. Total surrender, 21. All my karmendriya, my gnanendriya, panchabhuta, pancha prana, 20, and my whole mind together constitutes 21. Likewise, we also give arghya. What is this arghya made out of? The bilva leaf. So if it is Vishnu and other things, we give the tulsi leaf. On that we apply sandal paste, red and white. Then we apply akshata, rice, and durva, the grass, and then the multi-petal flower. And then offer, before doing the puja and after also while doing the puja, we offer that arghya. Two things are there. This is one of the arghya, and another thing is giving water to wash the hands of the Lord. So what is this indication of giving this flower, bilva patra and or tulsi patra and the durva and akshata? So it is indicative of the totality of all these things, mind. The chitta, the material is the flower, chitta. So of the quality, different material with which it is made, the chitta is the flower. Then durva grass was holding the amrita, atmagnana, akshata, indestructible, that is the atman. Then the bilva patra is this thing of the intellect, gnana, knowledge. So all together makes my mind. So before doing puja, we offer the arghya to show that, oh Lord, or to feel that I am offering everything, the whole mind, total mind towards the Lord. So that is the indicative, all the things we did with the sandal paste, showing that the significance is you are giving all the things with devotion. So likewise, here you can see when he was told that Divine Mother offering heartily as oblation to the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, his mind, his body, his life, and everything. He offered everything to Divine Mother. So when you are doing sadhana, we should completely offer everything to the Lord. No half. There is no half or 1/4 or making mind, this much I'll give to the world, this much I'll give to the family, this much I'll give to my studies, this much, not total. At the higher this thing. In the beginning, you can start with that. So there is a maxim, Nyaya Shastra in India. One of the maximum is Ardhajarati Nyaya. What is this Ardhajarati Nyaya? In one of our scriptures it tells. So a person took one egg. Then he wanted to cut that egg into half and boil that egg or use it for eating, and other half of the egg you wanted to hatch into a chick. Is it possible? Either you have to use the whole of the egg to hatch, or you have to use the whole of the egg to eat or consume. So you can't do half. That's called Ardhajarati Nyaya. So here you can see Ramakrishna giving the whole total to the Divine Mother. So no half. So wonderful story is told by Ramakrishna. You all know that story. He, while taking the example of Draupadi, while Draupadi was dragged to the court by Dushasana and being tried to disrobe, at that time she was trying to ward off Dushasana, fight with him, scold the people there and tell that through so much logical arguments. Finally, that didn't work. So while he was trying to disrobe, she was holding her cloth with both the hands and trying to stop it. Then finally, when that also didn't work, she started calling Lord Krishna. With one hand, she was calling Krishna, and another hand, she was holding the cloth. Then too, nothing happened. Then Ramakrishna is telling this story. Then finally, he told, oh Dwaraka Vasin, oh Lord Krishna who is living in Dwaraka, hey Krishna Dwaraka Vasin, she shouted with both the hands. She gave up her self-effort. She started shouting to the Lord with both the hands, lifted both the hands and shouted. Then Krishna came and then gave the Akshaya Vasana. So until you are dilly-dallying, you don't have full faith, Yes, God will be there to help you. Will not come completely. When you completely give yourself to God, and the Lord will come rushing and help you. And also, this story is told by Ramakrishna in Gospel about Draupadi giving complete mind to God, everything to God, effort to God. One more example told by Ramakrishna about that is there was one lady who was selling flowers. She had a friend who was doing the work of the yarn, taking that cotton thread and different thread and selling them for cloths. So that was her business. So this friend was a flower vendor. So she used to sell flowers. She had come to the market to sell her produce. It was a little bit late. So now it became dark. She couldn't go back to her town or village. It was far off because it was already night. So for safety, she came to the friend's house and asked for shelter to stay there. The friend was very happy. After so many months or years, the friend has come to her house. She made all arrangements, but she was dealing or doing the business of the yarn, different colorful cloths, all the silken cloths, all different varieties of cotton cloths, all the so many different yarns, colorful, shining, so many cloths there, all that balls of cloth, that yarn was there. It was very colorful and attractive. So when this flower, that lady who saw all those things, she felt attracted. Maybe she had the disease of kleptomania. You know what is kleptomania? Even though you have all the things in your house, you want to steal. If you don't eat or if you don't take away things by stealing, you don't get that satisfaction. So you have to steal. Though even though you're very rich, you have all the facilities. It's called the disease in psychology is called as kleptomania. Maybe this woman had that, so she wanted to steal some yarns, that cotton or that colorful or that silken, that thread balls. That's called yarn balls. So she wanted to carry it away, very light and very colorful. So she stole some of them, some 5 or 6 or 10, and then where to hide it. The friend should not see, so she hid her in the cloths. But the friend could understand. She could see from outside that she has stolen. So she wanted not to give up her friendship because she was a very close bosom friend of hers. But at the same time, she should not put that stealing or that thieving on her and make her unhappy. Then she may not come afterwards. Then she may lose a friend. So very tactfully, she wanted to take away. She wanted the yarn, that stolen things, to be taken back. At the same time, she didn't want to lose the friendship. So Ramakrishna tell in that story that this Viva woman told, after so many days we have met, so let us both of us join together and dance. Then she was also very happy. Both of them started dancing, catching hold of the both the hands. Both of the women friends were dancing. So while dancing, all these yarn balls, that cotton balls, were slowly falling down one by one, which were hidden because of the dancing and the jumping. So then this weaver woman would push them away in her legs while dancing itself, so that she should not feel that she has been caught. So like that while dancing, but two yarn balls were hidden under the armpits of that lady. So she was tightly holding them like this. So she would not allow that to fall down. But now this woman knows, weaver woman knows she's having that. So how to take them also? Then she told, now if we dance like this, catching hold of the hands, it's not proper. We have to dance with, then the real dance will be there when both of us will dance with uplifted hands. So when she made her lift the hands, both of the hands, and dance, then that yarns which were under that yarn balls under the armpit also fell down. And then she pushed her away, made friend comfortable. And next day she went, she had also the friend and also this thing. So then using this example, Sri Ramakrishna tells, so all the bondages, this kama, krodha, mada, matsarya, are sticking on to us, just like this ball, stolen things. So by taking the name of the Lord, dancing in the name of the Lord, all these things will go away. the stolen things like these Kama, Krodha, Mada, Matsarya, and all these Ashtapashas will fall away. But out of shame or lajja, we are just clapping the hands and keeping our lowering our arms, not giving completely to the this thing and dancing, then all these things will not fall off. Raise both the hands, all the bondages will fall. When you raise both the hands and dance in the name of the Lord, then all the bondages will fall. So, like that, you have to give complete everything to the Lord, dedicate, surrender to the Lord. Then only you will also progress very quickly. So, if you have these thing bondages like shame and other things, so then you can't get complete result. That's why you can see offering heartily, heart as oblations. So he has given his complete heart, his emotions, all his emotions to Divine Mother. Offering heartily as oblations, as outpourings. Oblations means when you're doing home, havan, you give that oblations. So that's oblations, offerings to the Lord, God. So offering heartily as oblations to the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, his body, not only his body, his mind, his life, and all. He's given up his heart, heartily everything. His body, his mind, his life, and everything Ramakrishna dedicated to Divine Mother. Not a single thing of his own. Everything had been dedicated. So that is total surrender, total dedication. That's why I told so many examples of 21, the Tarkhya, and this, all the story of Master. The Master himself has shown it, how to dedicate totally to the feet of God. So he had offering heartily as oblations to the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, his body, mind, life, and all, the Master saw himself incessantly pervaded inwardly and outwardly by the fire of knowledge. The fire of knowledge of the Divine Mother, of God, of Parabrahma Swarupa, because he has given up everything totally to God. So God has also accepted everything of his and he is pervading. The knowledge of God is pervading Sri Ramakrishna inwardly and outwardly because he reciprocated, because Ramakrishna has offered everything, not even a trace of hisness. So he is completely dedicated, surrendered to Lord. So the Lord has pervaded Ramakrishna inwardly and outwardly by the fire of knowledge. The Master was during this period, the Master saw during this period, what did he see? Awakened Kundalini. In yoga, Raj Yoga, and other aspects we can see in Tantra, it's told about the Kundalini. So the awakened Kundalini, the Divine Mother, separated from Lord Shiva, stays there, the lowest thing of the backbone, Muladhara. So in that Muladhara chakra, Mother at the end of that backbone, coccyx, that bone, the end, that is a Muladhara. It's a triangular in shape. That's why it's called Mula Shungata in Sanskrit, yoga. So the Divine Mother stays there. The place, the Divine Mother's place, that's why it is red in color. And there is Bija Mantra also. Different Bija Mantras for different this thing. I've explained that in detail in the Puja class, significance of Puja while I was doing Bhuta Shuddhi. I had shown all the pictures and the petals, the number of petals of the lotus there, everything. I had explained in detail in the Puja. If you want, you can go to our YouTube channel and in the Puja class, it is all there in the Bhuta Shuddhi. So the Bija Mantra is there, the number of petals of that lotus is there, the Divine Mother resides there in the form of a serpent coiling, sleeping serpent. So by your practices, spiritual practices, when you purify your mind and heart and you go progress forward, then this Kundalini, Supta Bhujaga Rupini, the mother who is sleeping there in the form of the coiled up serpent, she wakes up and then starts moving up in the Sushumna canal. That is the backbone. We have that. The left side is the Ida, the cord, the nerve cord, and the right side is the Pingala. In the center, there is a hollow canal that is called Sushumna Nadi. So through that, this Divine Mother in the form of the Kundalini will flow up as it goes up to different chakras, the plane of consciousness. It's chakra, it is not something physical. but it is the plane of existence or plane of consciousness, the level of your mind. As it goes up, that becomes awakened, and that lotus will bloom, it will be awakened. So it will finally reach the Sahasrara, thousand petal lotus, the drooping thousand petal lotus will bloom. And the Amrita, the Atmagnana, the Amrita will flow down. That is joy. So as this Kundalini goes up from this Muladhara to the next chakra to the next chakra, that aspirant will start having different experiences because his mind is moving to higher planes of spirituality. So he'll start having so many visions, so many experiences. So Ramakrishna is also having all those things and is telling what is happening during that period. So the master is telling, so during this period, the awakened Kundalini, the sleeping serpent, the Kundalini, so the color of that Muladhara is red. That's why you always adorn Divine Mother with the, what do you call, red cloths. And also Ganesha, we did that, we celebrated Ganesha's birthday. Ganesha's residing place is also Muladhara. So there is one mantra, Ganesha Atharvana Shirsha, Ganesha Atharva Shirsha. It comes in Atharva Veda. Atharvana, Tvam Muladhare Stitosi Nityam Pratam Vachmi Satyam Vachmi Avatvamma Avavaktaram. So that is the Ganesha Atharva Shirsha. It is told, Tvam Muladhare Stitosi Nityam. O Ganesha, you reside in the Muladhara Chakra. The Rishis have found out. So the Divine Mother, with Divine Mother, always Ganesha resides there. Wherever Divine Mother goes, or wherever Ganesha is, Divine Mother is. Just like wherever Hanuman is, Rama is there. Or wherever Rama is, Hanuman is there. So like that, wherever Divine Mother, Ganesha is there. So Muladhara. That's why we always worship Ganesha with red flower, red cloth. Rakta Chandana Charchitam, Rakta Vastra, the red colored cloths, Ganesha we give because that color is the Muladhara. Color of Muladhara is red. So now he's seeing, Ramakrishna is telling that the master saw during this period the awakened Kundalini proceeding upwards to the head in that Sushumna canal. It is awakened. In puja, we have to tell the Bija mantra, whom the Bija mantra is for awakening Kundalini. They are made to repeat that Bija mantra, whom, and to awaken Kundalini. But here, our mantra, whatever the Guru has given, if you go on doing, increasing the number, the mind becomes purer and purer. The more you do the japa and the meditation given by your Guru, your mind becomes pure, and that this Kundalini will start awakening and going up, and you will start having different experiences. So nothing other thing be done. You can just do the japa, the repetition of the name of the God, whatever your Guru has given, that will suffice to awaken this Kundalini. Your mind will become pure. Go on doing with great concentration the japa given by your Guru, the mantra, that itself will raise that Kundalini. So now Ramakrishna is telling his own experience. The master saw during this period, could experience that, he could see, could separate from his body and see how the Kundalini is being awakened. Awakened Kundalini proceeding upwards to the head, that just like that snake through the Sushumna canal. All the lotuses, as I told you, there are that 7 chakras from the Muladhara. Then the next is Swadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata at the heart, Vishuddha at the throat, Agna Chakra, Sahasrara. 7 chakras are there. So all that, as this Kundalini is touching them and crossing through them, he could see that lotuses were blooming. So there is the 4-petal lotus, 6-petal lotus, different this thing. In the heart, you'll have this 12-petal lotus, 16-petal lotus, 2-petal lotus, 1,000-petal lotus. So all that petal lotus blooming slowly as that Kundalini is. So Ramakrishna could go out and see all those things happening in his own body. All the lotuses from the Muladhara, the basic center, Mula Adhara, basic center, to the 1,000-petaled, yeah, Sahasrara. Sahasra means 1,000. In the head, turned upwards and opened fully. They used to bloom as his Kundalini used to go through that canal at that different level. He could see that blooming of that lotuses. Then thousand petal lotus also, which is drooping like this. Open up the thousand petal lotus. As soon as they did so, one after another, he got strange and wonderful experiences. He saw, for example, that a luminous celestial, a luminous, that is bright with light, celestial, went through the Sushumna, the canal centralis, to those lotuses, now turning upwards, and made them blossom, touching them with his tongue. At one time, Swami Vivekananda sat for meditation. There appeared before him a very large, wonderful triangle of light. So Vivekananda had one experience. And what was that experience Vivekananda had? At one time, Swami Vivekananda sat for meditation. There appeared before him a very large, wonderful triangle of light, wonderful triangle of light, which he felt was living and throbbing. That wonderful triangle of light was living, he felt. Vivekananda had that. One day he came to Dakshineshwar, Vivekananda came to Dakshineshwar and told the master about this. When the latter said, Ramakrishna replied, "Oh, very good, you have seen the Brahmayoni." While practicing sadhana, while practicing sadhana under the Bilva tree in Dakshineshwar, Panchavati, I also saw it, I also had that vision. What more, I observed it giving birth to innumerable worlds, universes, galaxies. You only saw that Brahmayoni, the triangle, luminous triangle of light. But I too had that vision, but I even went further. I saw that Brahmayoni was giving birth to innumerable thousands and thousands of the galaxies, the solar systems, the Milky Ways, the universes. It was giving birth. So Ramakrishna told, I too had that vision. I even went forward to see all these things, that giving birth to so many. That's why we describe Divine Mother as Akhila Anda Koti Brahmanda Janani. Akhila Anda means egg. Akhila means all this, egg. Koti. What is Koti? Billions, millions, billions. Koti. Brahmanda means this universe, egg. Janani means who is the giver of birth. Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Janani, Divine Mother is called. So Ramakrishna had the vision of her, that Brahmayoni, giving birth to innumerable. Ramakrishna is himself telling, Vivekananda had that vision. Let us go back to the vision of Swami Vivekananda. He had that vision. At one time, Swami Vivekananda sat for meditation. There appeared before him a very large, wonderful triangle of light, which he felt was living. One day he came to Dakshineshwar and told the master about this, about his experience. What experience? That he saw a wonderful triangle of light, which he felt was living. When he told this to Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna replied, very good. You have seen the Brahmayoni. While practicing sadhana under the Bilva tree, I also saw it. I also had that vision. What was more, not only I saw that Brahmayoni, I observed it giving birth to innumerable worlds every moment. That Brahmayoni was creating, giving birth to innumerable worlds. Like the solar system, so many worlds, all these stars, so many galaxies, so many Milky Ways, all that, the whole universe. That's why Divine Mother is called Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda Janani. I also had that vision. But what more? While practicing sadhana under the Bilva tree, I saw it. What was more, I observed it giving birth to innumerable worlds. Every moment, every second, it is giving birth to so many innumerable worlds. At that time, the master heard, and then later on, another vision experience. At that time, the master heard arising naturally, and unceasingly, everywhere in the universe. What did Master hear at that time? Unceasingly, without stop, naturally, everywhere in the universe. What did he hear? The Anahata Dhvani. This is the chakra, Anahata chakra. The heart chakra is called Anahata. So he used to hear the Anahata Dhvani. Dhvani means sound. What is this Anahata Dhvani? Om, 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 Omkara. Anahata Dhvani, the original sound. Om, which originates from Akasha. Om, Anahata Dhvani. So that incessantly, continuously, pervading the whole universe. At the time, Ramakrishna is telling, Master heard, arising naturally and unceasingly, everywhere in the universe, the Anahata Dhvani, the sound of Anahata, the great Pranava. Pranava is Om, Pranava sound, Anahata or Pranava, Pranava Dhvani. Pranava means that Omkara. Omkara means that sound, continuously pulsating. Omkara. Om is the sound, Kara means that pulsating sound, continuous sound is called Omkara. So Ramakrishna used to hear that naturally, unceasingly, continuous sound, pulsating Om, 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 constantly. The Anahata Dhvani, the great Pranava sound, many people keep the name of their children as Pranava. So you can see Omkara, which is what is that Pranava, or what is that Anahata Dhvani? Which is the aggregate, the total of all the different sounds of this universe. Whatever sound, whatever energy, anything, any sound which you see in this earth is the outcome or a small part of this Anahata Dhvani. Or in other words, Ramakrishna is telling, which is the aggregate of all the different sounds of the universe is Om. Or in the reverse way, you can tell, all the other sounds come from this one word, Om. Some of us heard from the Master himself that he could at that time understand. So note this, one more great thing is coming. What is that? Very, very important thing. Some of us heard from the Master himself, Ramakrishna himself told that he could at that time understand, at that time he could understand the meanings, the cries of all the animals. Now you got the capacity to understand the language of all the animals. The dogs also speaks, they communicate in their own way to other dogs, which we cannot understand. The birds communicate to other birds in their own squeaks and sound. The crows, the fishes, the insects, every animal, they communicate, they have their language, which we cannot understand because we have limited our mind to so many other desires and so many other impurities of our mind. But Sri Ramakrishna, during this type of sadhana, he was growing up and his mind was becoming so expanded. And also he started seeing or hearing Anahata Dhvani, the original sound. When he understood and when he came to know, discovered the original sound Om, then what about the all other sounds, which is just replica or the offshoots of this thing, byproducts of that sound Om? When he has understood, when he had realized the Om itself, the original sound Om, then now he got the special power of, he heard from the Master himself saying that he could at that time understand the meanings of the cries of all the animals. So he could read, could understand the language, he could speak, could hear them talk, whatever the animals, the dogs or birds or insects or whatever, he could understand the meaning, what they were talking, what they are communicating. So another speciality of Sri Ramakrishna, we were all now discussing the master degree of Ramakrishna, education of Sri Ramakrishna. We were discussing that Ramakrishna had so many specialities, talents, character. Now, due to this sadhana, Ramakrishna has got this special miraculous power. What is that? He's expert in all different languages, not only the language of the human beings. You speak in whichever Japanese or Greek or they will tell Latin or Hebrew, but mentally the thought is coming out as the language, isn't it? Our language or the words we speak is just the expression of the thought. When the original thought itself is understood, then what about any language? So Ramakrishna could understand at that time during that sadhana when he got all this miraculous power. So he could understand not only of the human beings of any language, he could understand even of the animals, all the animals, birds, insects, everything. See here. Some of us heard from the master himself, Ramakrishna himself is telling that he could at that time understand the meanings of the cries of all the animals. So then why only at that time? Because Ramakrishna could give up that all that miraculous powers. Whenever he wanted, he could use it. Suppose you go on understanding all the languages of all the animals and this thing, then what will happen to you? You'll be distracted. You'll know everything. It is safe. It is better that you don't understand the cry of the bird and other things, what they are speaking. And also, if you start understanding the thoughts of all the human beings, can you be in peace? You will be disturbed. Everybody's thoughts outwardly, you will be showing a laughing face, and you will be speaking so nicely with everybody. But internally, what are the thoughts which are in your mind? God alone knows. And if you go on understanding all those things, can you believe in peace? Outwardly, you'll be giving a very big smile. And your expressions, body languages will be very good. Sorry. Excuse me. So inwardly, we do not know what are our thoughts. But if you come to know all those thoughts, can you be in peace? Your mind will be disturbed. But that may not, that is with ordinary people. But Ramakrishna gave all that special powers which he didn't want them. So, but anytime he could read the mind of the people, he could understand the languages. So Ramakrishna's words itself is indicating that because he now understood Omkara, the origin of sound itself. At that time, the master heard arising naturally and unceasingly everywhere in the universe, the Anahata Dhvani, the great Pranava sound. Even he used to give the example. What is that? How that creation was done. In many of the places in Gospel, he has explained. Master Mahashaya has recorded it. How the creation, the Big Bang theory, almost very near to that. Ramakrishna is telling. Do you know the gong? We beat the gong in the temple in Belur Math, and also in all the temple during Arati, early morning Arati, also there is a gong. We beat that dong, dong, that sound. That sound which comes out pulsate, that is almost similar. All these, the blowing of the conch, the ringing of the bell, the beating of this gong, that gives out that Omkara Dhvani, similar Dhvani to Om, Om Pranava Dhvani, Omkara. So that creation time, that Big Bang theory, Ramakrishna used to explain, but because he had all this vision, that just like that when the gong sound is heard, that sound goes on pulsating like that, the creation with that bang, that creation has been done. Ramakrishna has explained that in the gospel. So he has that vision here, the origin of the sound, everything creation. At that time, Master heard arising naturally and unceasingly, continuously, everywhere in the universe. The Anahata Dhvani, the great Pranava sound, Om, 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 whatever now we tell the name, in Hinduism, the Omkara, is not just something bogus. It's all real. The whole universe is pervaded with that sound. Om, Om, pulsating. Ramakrishna heard that. Pranava, Anahata Dhvani, which is the aggregate of all the different sounds of the universe. Totality of all the sound. It comes from Om. So after that, some of us heard from the master himself that he could at that time understand the meanings of the cries, of any sound of all animals. Not one animal, human being, all animals. Ramakrishna. So, master degree. Education of Sri Ramakrishna, we can see. Ours is limited education. You might have some degree, master degree, or PhD, or Ramakrishna's is infinite knowledge, infinite education, real education. So that's why I'm telling now. See, another aspect of education of Sri Ramakrishna has come. He could understand all the languages of all the animals, everything. He came to know the origin of the sound, the sum totality, the aggregate of all the sounds, from which all the energies and sound comes. Om, Anahata Dhvani. So like that, we will go on studying and seeing all the things which Ramakrishna got by sadhana, spiritual sadhana. It will inspire us to go forward in spiritual life. So many beautiful things are there during the period of sadhana. What all he himself with his own sacred lips is telling all those things. We will also hear, study, meditate on these things and move forward in spiritual life. So now it's time for question and answer. If you have any questions, any doubts, you can ask. Then we are all now preparing for Navaratri. It's fast approaching. So we will prepare for that. Navaratri too. Preparation for Navaratri. Just like we did Ganesh Puja and just like we did Krishna Janmashtami, like that we should also prepare for Navaratri. That is the speciality of Hinduism. One festival goes another. Continuously, they will make you think of God. They will not let you allow. Just sit and enjoy your siesta, sleep, and your material enjoyments. Hinduism is just like a mother. Mother will again and again take you towards spirituality. Get the joy of God. The next is Navaratri. We shall get ready for that. So prepare ourselves for the celebrations. Study the Chandi, the Durga Saptashati, and go deeper. So as usual, today is Sunday. Tomorrow, Monday morning, we will have this discussion on the Great Master. Then Monday evening, we have the Science of Worship. Tuesday, we have the Viveka Chudamani, Christian of Discrimination. Yesterday, I explained about that Ganesha's trunk, which is just like the nose, which will examine this world, good and bad, real and unreal. So that aspect is called discrimination, discriminating between the good and the bad, real and unreal, Atman and Anatman. Viveka Chudamani, Christian of discrimination. Ganesha's trunk represents that elephant trunk. So that Christian of discrimination study will be on Tuesday. Then Wednesday we have Bhagavad Gita. Against Thursday, Friday we will have the discussion on Great Master. Then Saturday we have Bhagavad Gita discussion. We are all welcome to that. Now, if you have any questions, if you have any doubts, we can entertain that. Ram, Madhu, please tell.
Maharaj, can you explain a little bit more about this Anahata Dhvani? Is this during spiritual progress that you make? Do you also hear these sounds, or what does that indicate?
No, it is always there. It is always the sound is coming, or even in you, it will be heard. It is there. The sound will be Anahata Dhvani is always there, everywhere, pervading this universe. As I told you, because of our ignorance, because of our impurities, because of our desires, we have covered that and we have forcibly stopped it being heard. So much of desires in our mind to enjoy this world, so much of impurities. So we ourselves have covered up and it is not being heard. When you go on for going forward in sadhana, making progress in spiritual life, then it will be heard. It is just revealed, that's all. It is not that it was not there and you found out something new. It is always there. It is being, that sound is there everywhere, pervading the whole universe. While doing the sadhana, spiritual practices, whatever your guru has given, your mind becomes so pure and pure, then your distractions will become less, the desires will reduce, and then this will also start manifesting. You can hear it.
Okay. Om Swamiji.
Yes.
Om Swamiji. Yes,
Om
that's. So, Om Swamiji.
Yes, Mother, please tell.
Yes. Swamiji, the part that you just explained now is very interesting because in one of the yoga practices, you practice yoni mudra by shutting off your five senses with your fingers. You can either sit in Sukhasana or Vajrasana, and after some time, obviously this requires continuous practice. And the sound that you're explaining now, you can actually, in this yoni mudra, you can actually feel and hear that sound. But it comes with a lot of practice and a lot of effort.
Yes, Mother. All the yoga, all that this thing have been formulated and is there only to take us through that spiritual life. They had all experiences earlier and they have given us the puja, the rituals, everything is just leading us to the higher spiritual aspects only.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Yes. So see, you can see as and when we read the life of Ramakrishna, now you felt, oh, the yoga, the asanas, everything is true. It gives out whatever, because Ramakrishna is having the experience. That is why Ramakrishna is practicing all different disciplines to show us everything is true. Our scriptures are true. Any other questions? Any other doubts? So there was a question on the chat that God helps them who help themselves. Yeah, that is 100% true. There is no contradiction about that at all. But when you completely surrender and dedicate yourself, you don't have time, you don't have other things to think of your worldly things, then as Krishna has told in Bhagavad Gita, that he will take care of those people. Ananyas chintayanto mam. They cannot think of themselves. Now they have gone to such an extent that they think only of God and they can't do anything else. Then God take completely control or responsibility of them. That is the thing. But when we are at a different lower stage, the Lord has given us the strength. The Lord has given us the brain. Use it properly. Why should you disturb God? That just like one example is given by Ramakrishna himself. 3 people were going in the forest and suddenly they heard the loud roar of a lion, and one of the devotees ran up and climbed up the tree. Another started sitting down and meditating and calling on God, and that lion roaring went away far and they escaped from that. But when that person who had climbed the tree came down, this person asked him, why did you run away? Don't you have faith in God? He told, no, I have faith in God. The Lord has given me the legs. The Lord has given me the strong hands. The Lord has given me the intellect so that I can use it and protect myself. So why should I disturb God when I can protect myself? What I cannot do with these hands and intellect and whatever strength I have, then I will take recourse to God. But why should I disturb God? So here the attitude is important. So his attitude was that the Lord should be happy. The Lord should not be disturbed. So like that, there are different aspects of spiritual life. When you have the ego, when your ego is strong, you can think that, then do with your self-effort and come to know. Then when you go deeper into spiritual life, you think so much of God and God alone that you cannot do your worldly things. At that time, the Lord will take care of you. When the complete surrender is complete, then the Lord will now come to that place and look after you. When you have that ego, when you have that strength, feel that I can do anything, please continue with that. But only see what is your attitude. That's all. So the attitudinal change is what we are speaking of. we should not sometimes take things physically. The attitudinal change is very, very important. Here, the person who was trying to climb the tree is also thinking of God. Why should I disturb God? The thought of God is important there. So just feel what is his attitude. And we have heard God's help. God helps those who help themselves. But Draupadi did not get help from Lord Krishna until there was effort from her. Can you please clarify, Swamiji? Yes, the effort of calling Krishna is also an effort, isn't it? Calling Krishna completely with heart is also effort which Draupadi did. So she put in the effort to call God, and the Lord came. So when your effort was to save yourself with the help of your ego body, the Lord didn't come. That's all. It is so as simple as that. So even for God to come, you have to give in the complete effort. That's all. 100%. Surrender, complete surrender is required. But when you think you have the ego, you have the body, you have the energy to do, there also you can think just like that person. Why should I disturb God? Oh Lord, I will do my work with the help of your energy which you are given. That is also the attitude, right attitude, isn't it? There also the feeling of God is important. So you are thinking of God, telling that, oh Lord, you have given me the strength, you have given me the this thing, I will do that. Yes, the Lord will be pleased there too. So in both the ways, it is your dependence upon God is confirmed. So that is very, very important. The attitude is important. So we are speaking at that spiritual plane, the attitude which we have to understand. Yeah. Any other questions? So if you don't have any questions or any doubts, then I can conclude with the prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha सर्वयज्ञेश्वरो हरिः तस्मिन् तुष्टे जगत्तुष्टं प्रीणिते प्रीणितं जगत् हरिः ओम तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।